So by now you have probably heard, not just recently from the Bank of England, that we are headed very much into a recession. Liz Truss has tried to deny this fact by saying that um, these bad weather forecasts can just be ignored. No, forecasts like this need to be paid attention to and looked at. Well, what's our monetary policy like that? What can we do to maybe avoid, this oncoming recession? Is it still not too late to change directions and do something to either stop this from happening? Liz Truss is doubling down on this. She's very, very much hyping up these tax cuts, which are only going to be very, very short term. Most economists that I've heard, on this subject have said, look, these tax cuts only going to be very, very short term. You're talking maybe 3 to 4 months at best of having any proper benefit. But if you've already got rapidly rising inflation leading to stagflation, where no matter how much growth you achieve, inflation also rises, leading to this constant problem where no matter where you get growth, the inflation sort of almost tacks onto it like a parasite and sort of keeps feeding off that growth. So we are facing some incredibly hard economic problems ahead, and we are heading into a recession. And this is not a world recession. This is just a UK recession, and it is caused by the Conservatives. It is being caused by their economic policies, and one of the things they are refusing to accept, it is being also heavily laid into. Brexit is heavily going into this as well. This is Brexit, as we always said, Brexit would not be a solution to a lot of the UK's problems. It would only exacerbate more of the problems that we've had or are indeed having. And this is one area where it is very, very much so. And they will try and say Brexit's got nothing to do with this recession. This isn't the Brexit recession that those Remainers were all warning about. It's not happening at all. It's just everyone just ignore them. Get hyped up on those, yuppie beans of tax cuts that Liz Truss is trying to hand out. So today, instead, rather than looking at a UK take on this, we're going to go across the Irish Sea today to have a look at the Irish Examiner, because just because one country has a recession does not mean that it will impact other countries as well. So how is this going to affect, Irish businesses? And especially as we're seeing this recession could last a long time, a very long time. We're taking maybe a year, if not two, or maybe, unfortunately, if the Conservatives really want to continue on this economic path, probably potentially even longer. So, yeah, let's go jumping straight then into this article with the Irish Examiner. But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page, the Pony Club as well for the YouTube subscriptions, the thank you button, and of course, the one-off donation link, Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So over we go to the Irish Examiner today with their look at this, their title of this, with fears for Irish businesses as Britain heads for a year-long recession. The Irish food and agribusinesses are bracing themselves for the impact of a year-long recession in Britain, which represents over 30% of their export market. So, as we said at the beginning, this is going to have a knock-on effect, of other countries. And it's probably not just Ireland that is going to be, affected by this as well. Of course, while this will sort of have trouble, this won't drag other countries into a recession. We ain't, we're not the, United States essentially tanking the entire, world economy. In its bleakest assessment for over a decade, the Bank of England not only warned of a downturn there will of last year, but that inflation will spike to over 13% in the coming months. Fears that the British economy is heading into some sort of constriction due to the severe cost of living crisis have been widely flagged. However, the latest assessment by the Bank of England was, if anything, bleaker than anticipated, economists have said. At present, the dire financial situation in Britain is sharply contrast to what's happening here in Ireland, with the latest exchequer figures here showing a surplus of over 5 billion euros in July compared to the deficit of 5.7 billion euros this time last year. Furthermore, the Centre for Office Statistics has reported the overall seasonal adjustment of unemployment rate at a 21-year low of 42.5% in July. However, Irish experts now warn that the gloom enveloping the British economy will hit the smaller exporters as the food and agri companies here and the tens of thousands of jobs that depend on those small firms selling their goods across the Irish Sea. Gerald Brady, the chief economist of the business group Lebeck, said that despite diversifying, the UK still represents about 30% of their export market for indigenous farms. And those, of course, small exporting companies are job rich and will have to spread employment across four corners of the industry. Mr. Bradley said that the Bank of England report showed the challenges that face SMEs out of Ireland selling into Britain, as it faces the 13% inflation, a long recession, and interest rates that will continue basically until inflation comes down. It's a very bleak outlook for the UK economy, the chief economist said. IBEX still predicts that the economy in the Republic will avoid the recession because the economy went well into the COVID crisis in a much better shape than Britain's. It has a little more firepower to weather the cost of living crisis. Brian Keegan, the Director of Public Affairs and Chartered Accountants in Ireland, said that undoubtedly the challenges coming down the line for the Irish companies and European Central Bank hikes interest rates, but he was reassured that this week's exchequer returns showed the very robustness of the economy and the face of the cost of living crisis. It warned the economic clouds of darkening. The Bank of England report predicted that UK inflation will stay elevated, and the economic downturn will extend through to the next year in 2024. The outlook is based, of course, on the average any bills increases there by over 75% to around over £3,500 in October. And as we've said before, this is what I said when everything in November going to come to a head. Like November is when everything just goes. However, here in Ireland, the Irish Taoiseach Michelle Martin said that the positive exchequer figures announced last week will allow his government to do more to help Irish households, help keep down the cost of living crisis, which his party has been driven by surging energy prices. Speaking in West Kerry, Martin said it is good that these revenues have remained strong this year, notwithstanding the challenges in terms of the cost of living overall. Revenues are increasing, so the government plans are basically a comprehensive budget to deal with the medium and long-term framework, and will also cost the focus in terms of tax relief and how we can reduce the cost for families. So yeah, that's sort of the Irish outlook on our state. And like I say, if I were to read any of sort of the UK press, they will basically tell you exactly the same. Nothing is looking good at the moment. We are having some very, very dire outlooks and straits in here. And the worrying thing is that Liz Truss will probably be Prime Minister. I've said before, there's a 90% chance she's going to be Prime Minister. And I've said, got to leave that 10% chance for anything crazy or wacky happening. But again, it's Liz Truss, so who knows? But essentially, at this point, Liz Truss will be Prime Minister, and she is not talented enough in any way, shape, or form. We will probably get Theresa Coffey or maybe even John Redwood, as we've heard, maybe in the Exchequer position. Maybe we'll get more clarification about that. Who will that be? And even then, they will not be, shall we say, overly equipped to actually handle this, because in this crisis, there is going to be a lot of, push for the government to help support the public during this cost of living crisis. And they are not prepared to do that. The Tories do not want to do that, full stop. And if she does, in any way, shape, or form, there is going to be a monumental pushback from the right wing on the Tory backbenchers, because just as they push back against the furlough scheme and the other sort of, government interventions into, into helping the public during the pandemic, which was again by one Conservative MP showing that socialism worked. It's all November. Like I say, guys, November. it's all going to explode. And I've said it before, I think next year, March, April time, maybe we could be doing this entire Tory leadership contest dance all over again. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee, or you can join the YouTube subscription plan, the Pony Club, or there is the YouTube thank you button, of course, down below, or there's the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.